Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mentor Owners Podcast. I'm Jamie, here with my buddy Gabe. Gabe, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year. Apologies for the delay. We are back for, I guess, season 4 of the Mentormers. I think this is.
Yeah, I think that's fair to call it season 4.
I think so. A hearty muzzle tov to our producer Michael, who has become a father for the second time.
We were off for a little bit while Mike was on parental leave.
Yeah, naming his new daughter after, I would say, a top 3 Israeli prime minister.
Yeah, baby Golda.
But we have some sort of somewhat breaking news on the top. We're recording this on February the 5th. 6 hours after Kyrie Irving has been traded to the Dallas Mavericks, which points me to a question I want to kick off this episode with. Jamie, let me get your opinion. Did Kyrie get away with it?
Yes. I mean, I guess he did.
I think the answer is a hard yes.
It's sort of, so the other day in my fantasy basketball league, somebody spent some serious free agency like waiver budget on picking up Cam Thomas, who is his like backup in Brooklyn. And it reminded me that I also did that like 4 months ago when Kyrie first had the anti-Semitic incident, because like that was the expectation time. I was like, oh, he's going to get all his playing time because Kyrie's going to be out. So we're back full circle. He's been traded to us, and yeah, I guess he got away with it. He got his preferred wish of being traded. He hasn't had an anti-Semitic incident in the last several months, which I guess is a good thing. I don't know. I like my anti-Semitism out in the open where you can see it instead of behind closed doors, but he did it. I will say that the thing that's shocking to me is that the Dallas Mavericks, of course, for the last 20 odd years have been owned by Mark Cuban, a proud Pittsburgh Jew. And the other day I was talking to some people, some friends about Kyrie's trade demand and where he might go. And someone was talking about, the Clippers or Phoenix. And I said, I think a Jewish owner would have a lot of pause about trading for Kyrie, for all the obvious reasons that we've talked about before. But there goes Mark Cuban. Doing it anyway. So, making a basketball decision, I guess, as they would say.
I think so too. And I think he probably wouldn't have done it if he didn't think Kyrie was going to be more basketball than like distraction.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that somebody in the next day or so, if they haven't already, will ask Mark Cuban, as a Jew, did you have any second thoughts about trading for Kyrie? And I'm sure his answer will be something like, we felt assured that he's not going to make any similar comments and that he's met with people and been educated or whatever nonsense they're going to say to explain why, they get a great passer to hook up with Luka Doncic and how that's going to, be great for their team.
No, yes, I think there's only one ball to go around. It's going to be interesting to see how somebody, keeps with Kyrie. They both need a lot of usage to be the most effective players they can.
Right.
Whether that's, on, Luka Doncic, who is sort of sneaky, I should say so far, the most controversial thing about him is that he probably smokes cigarettes.
Yeah. He shows up 5 pounds overweight to training camp and smoke and definitely smokes darts. Those are the big Luka.
So it's going to be a bit of a change to the sort of squeaky clean image that is the Dallas Mavericks so far.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess we'll continue to keep an eye on it and keep an eye on Kyrie's tweets and continue to report on that as it goes.
Interestingly, I'm curious to know if he's going to spend a lot of his time in Dallas researching the JFK assassination.
Now it's time for his conspiracy minded brain to take its turn through the JFK, thoughts.
Exactly.
I feel like anyone who's interested in conspiracy theories at some point, you gotta have a JFK period. You gotta have a year where you're just doing the JFK research, because it's on the one hand, well, I don't know. I don't want to get into JFK conspiracy theories, but it's the one that has the most meat on the bone. So it's
have you ever? Yeah,
it's worth getting into.
You ever heard Bill James's theory on the JFK assassination?
No, it isn't.
It's quite good, actually.
Okay.
It's that Oswald hit him in the arm. So, the bullet, if you remember Kevin Costner, it coming in with the pointer. So the first bullet hits JFK in the arm. At the same time, after hearing it, JFK's Secret Service bodyguard in the passenger seat turns around, whose gun goes off by accident and shoots Kennedy in the face.
Right. Okay.
That's why he can have 2 bullets in opposite directions.
Oswald has a high, weighted assassinations created.
Yeah.
To put a Bill James on it. we've
but
really
not actually delivered the RBI.
Gone off topic here. Yeah, we've really gone off topic here, which is to say we've covered the Kyrie news. We should say off the top we have a great interview coming up with Dan Rapaport. Dan is a golf writer. He is currently at Barstool.
He's gone everywhere in the golf world. Sports Illustrated, Golf Digest.
Yeah. We talked about, among other things, Max Homa's recent victory at the Farmers Open, Ben Silverman's victory at the Aruba Korn Ferry Tour stop, and some other Jewish golf news, including the upcoming U.S. Open.
I was looking this up, and I'm curious to know. The Korn Ferry Tour is named after a management consulting company that was founded.
Korn Jewish?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is Lester Korn Jewish?
Oh,
his name is Lester Korn. It sounds like quite, Lester Korn sounds like a pretty Jewish name. Ron Pelosi was one of the executives for a very, very long time the brother of Paul Pelosi, very not Italian American, but he was a big guy, at Korn Ferry for a long time. Their current CEO does not seem to be Jewish, a guy named Gary Burnison. But I think Lester Korn is Jewish.
Let's look into it and find out. Yeah.
Yeah. He was absolutely Jewish. The first Google that comes up about Lester Korn.
So Ben Silverman winning on the Jewish tour, the Korn Ferry Tour, as opposed to PGA, who is not Jewish.
Peter Alfredson.
Whoever PGA was.
Yes. So he's at Forest Lawn in Glendale. Very famous guy.
PGA doesn't stand for Professional Golf Association, does it?
I think it does.
Professional Golfers Association?
Golfers Association.
Yeah. So we had a nice chat with Dan about Jews and golf and things going on there. Please stick around to hear that. But before we get to that, we want to talk about some goings-on, typical Jewish sports news.
It is the Super Bowl week.
Yeah,
it's the Super Bowl coming
up.
Sunday
before the Super Bowl. I suppose the Pro Bowl is today. I did not tune into any of the Pro Bowl festivities.
No, but I heard it is flag football now, which sounds very summer campy, which can be construed to be Jewish.
Not a lot in the Jewish front in the Super Bowl for this year. No Jewish players. I think we mentioned before.
No Jewish players.
No one who had made. I think there were a few who made the playoffs, but no one made it out of the wild card round. The biggest, I would say, Jewish involvement is Eagles general manager Howie Roseman, who has sort of been written about a number of times now. There was a New York Times article 2 weekends ago. There's been a lot of writing about him because he's the sort of the connective thread aside from the owners who have been with the Eagles for the last while. So he put together the last Super Bowl winning team, and he put together this one, team that's going to the Super Bowl.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. Of course, Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie, also Jewish, we should say. So
yes.
If there's a Jewish rooting interest, I think it's for the Eagles.
I'm actually going to go sideways for you, and I think there's going to be one that tips it over.
Okay.
Quarterbacks coach and senior assistant coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Matt Nagy, is not Jewish, but he is thought to be. He's sort of a pointy-looking bald man from Pittsburgh, so he's got the vibe. But I would like to point out strength and conditioning coach Barry Rubin of the Kansas City Chiefs is not a man you'd hear of very often. He might, as far as we can tell, be the only Jewish strength and conditioning coach for any NFL team.
Not necessarily a people known for our strength and or conditioning, but cool that there's at least one strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, Barry Rubin. He was in the USA Strength Hall of Fame, so he is good at everything. He shares a name with Rabbi Rubin, the president of the largest Messianic Jewish organization in the world. So, somewhat there. But Barry Rubin, he was a punter through college and high school. He may have gone. He went to LSU. He was the Jewish All-American team for America, which is a thing that used to exist in the 1970s. When he was at LSU, he was on it twice. And now he's a strength and conditioning coaches Hall of Famer and the strength and conditioning coach, Barry Rubin. So a proud Jew for the Kansas City Chiefs. So
I will say
that's something.
That if you're the kind of person who enjoys something to root against, I will say that the Kansas City Chiefs have a little bit of a tangential connection to white supremacy / anti-Semitism, which is that
more than a tangential one.
Well, it's tangential because Lamar Hunt, who is the founder of the Chiefs and the American Football League, is the son, of course, of great oil prospector.
Great in the pejorative sense.
Businessman H.L. Hunt, who, like, I think after he made all his money, he's basically spent it all Henry Ford style on just like white supremacist conservative literature.
Yes.
And like some of that included anti-Semitism as well. Now, he didn't
H.L.
start
Hunt,
the Chiefs. He wasn't the founder of the Chiefs. His son was. Did his son use his inherited wealth to found the Kansas City Chiefs in the American Football League? Absolutely. So, there's a connection.
This actually takes us sort of back to Kyrie. And I know that's an odd way to put it, but
sure.
H.L. Hunt was a big fan of the Nation of Islam because they also believed in segregation and separation of the races. So he was like very close with Elijah Muhammad because
like
they had
the horseshoe theory,
the horseshoe theory. Exactly.
Two ends.
H.L. Hunt was a bad guy, and they were based out of Dallas and based in Dallas. The Hunt Corporation is still in Dallas.
Right.
But he's not a good guy. So rooting against the Hunt family is probably a good thing to do. Do we know if there's any white supremacy with the founder of the Eagles?
I'm going to guess not, but also, they have a Jewish owner now. So there's some, even if there was some history of, even if there was something regrettable in the history,
you know
at
what?
least now you can, if you are the kind of person who roots for an owner and a GM, which I guess I'm not really saying anyone should do, but if you need something, look, if you're Jewish and you want to watch a Super Bowl and you want to say, I wonder if there's any Jewish connection that I can cheer for or be interested in, that is it. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and Barry Rubin, conditioning coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, go ahead.
It is also worth mentioning, just one, the opposite of white supremacy to some degree is that their field is named Lincoln Financial Field, which is named after a bank, which is named after a president who freed the slaves.
Okay. Again, we are getting off. These are tangents on tangents here, but, again, there are no Jews in the Super Bowl, so you got to root for something. I wanted to mention in slightly sadder news, we wanted to talk about briefly the death of Lanny Poffo, the wrestler who died, unfortunately, at the young age of 69.
Heart failure.
Only 68 years old. He is, of course, the brother of Macho Man Randy Savage, a.k.a. Randy Poffo, who, was a more well-known wrestler.
Both a wrestler and I think Randy Poffo was drafted by the Reds in his life. But Lanny sort of spent his whole life as a wrestler. And, a Jewish wrestler, which, we're always covering and very excited about.
He was born in Calgary. So he's Canadian as well. I think we both looked into how he was born in Canada. Their dad was a wrestler too. Angelo Poffo. Their dad was Italian. Their mom was Jewish. And so, he wrestled in the 80s and 90s in what was then WWF. I think as the Genius. He's not someone I think about or I have a lot of recollection about from watching wrestling at the time, but
Leaping Lanny Poffo as well. Yeah. He had a very long career.
He did have a long career in wrestling and without, and unfortunately passed away at a young age. And there were lots of very memorable, very nice remembrances that I saw on Twitter and from other people in the wrestling industry remembering Lanny Poffo. So sad news, but wanted to mention that as well.
What's interesting, he certainly had done a lot of damage to his heart from a lifetime of alcohol and drug abuse, but had spent the last couple of decades of his life writing children's books about the dangers of intoxicants.
Well, that's a nice silver lining, I think, to a life that I think we've seen a lot of wrestlers where they often or disproportionately have had issues with substances, and if that contributes to an early death, it's sad as well.
Agreed.
Before we get to our interview, I wanted to talk about two guys who have had real, successful Januaries
Let's talk about some guys.
So the first one is someone we've talked about a lot before, who's Denny Avdia, the only Israeli player in the NBA right now. And he has been on a run in January. Mostly this has come after the Wizards traded Rui Hachimura to the Lakers. But in his last 4 games, he had a 25-point game on January 30th. That's I believe his career high. He had a 23-point game on February 4th. he is, getting real minutes now. He's like getting 30 minutes a game, and he's having a really good month. So keep an eye out for him. He's had a number of double doubles. He had a 20 rebound game on January 11th. And, he's sort of coming into his own. He had 4 steals yesterday. He is going to be getting more and more playing time for a Wizards team that is not necessarily lighting the world on fire, but
not
they're
quite at all. It's I feel like we've been talking about Denny Avdia for a long time. I guess we've been talking for a couple of years on this podcast. A lot of people have known about him for a while, and it's wild to think that he's still only 22.
Yeah.
He's been in the NBA for 3 years now. He's starting to really come into his own. So he's still really, really young. He was born in 2001, which is kind of terrifying to think about.
And the Wizards are currently in a play-in game spot. Like it's just as likely as not that they'll end up in one of those spots. And so we could see Denny in the playoffs potentially. The other guy that we wanted to talk about who is really, really just setting the world on fire right now is old friend of the pod, previous guest, Zach Hyman of the Edmonton Oilers, who is just like lighting it up,
Speaking of having a good 30, January.
Yeah. He's 30 years old. I mean, he signed that deal in Edmonton before last season, with an expectation that he was going to be getting more ice time than he had been in Toronto, and had a very successful year in Edmonton, which is say he had 54 points last year. 27 and 27, but he's already surpassed that. He's 26 goals, 34 assists through 49 games.
It's 60 points in 49 games. That's phenomenal.
He's going to be a 40 goal scorer in all likelihood. His January was unbelievable. He had 20 points in an abbreviated January, because between the All-Star break and Christmas,
New
Year's, whatever. He only got in 12 games, but to have 20 points in 12 games, unbelievable.
It's phenomenal.
I think I don't think it was a snub per se, but I think a lot of people felt that he should have been an all-star this past weekend.
He has
that, if the voting was done a little bit later, then he probably would be, but he is just lighting it up. It's unbelievable. And an Edmonton team that has won 7 of their last 8 games, and the only loss was a loss in overtime. They are going to, I think, they're probably the Canadian team with the best chance of making a run this.
They're a team to watch out for. They were sort of mediocre for the first, I guess half of the season, and they've really started to heat up. Zach Hyman has doubled his career points average this year too. So it's it's exciting to see him lead the team, be a big part of that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, the Western Conference is very bunched up. I mean, I know the story has, for all of hockey, has just been the dominance of Boston. Every team in the West is like within 10 points. Like the first 10 teams are all within 10 points of first place. Like any of those teams are good enough to make a run. Edmonton with Zach Hyman, I think, has real potential. And if he continues to play the way he is, then he's going to be in consideration. I don't know. Maybe for some. For some recognition next year.
End of season hardware. Well, he's sort of always been a very hard-nosed two-way player. So a Selke trophy is absolutely not out of the question.
Is that best most defensive? Is that
best defensive forward?
Best defensive forward, right?
Yep. The NHL doesn't have a most improved player award. But if they did, he would be a really big candidate for it this year. Like we said, he's doubled his career average in points per game. And even, he's been playing with McDavid for 2 years now. And even that second year, he's been doing a huge, huge benefit. He's gotten so much better over the last year. So there is absolutely a great chance, for him to get some serious,
Selke consideration.
Yeah. Selke consideration. As well, they don't have this. They don't always have the most improved player award, but what they do also have is what's the Masterton Trophy, which is sort of the perseverance award. So to break out at 32 years old, that's really cool. Or 31 years old, I should say.
He's almost 32.
A big deal for it to happen.
It's not as though Toronto didn't know what they had in him. As a pretty solid, maybe defensive minded forward, but. A guy who is sort of overplaying his size and maybe pedigree. But again, if you had said he's going to score 40 goals before he signed his his contract offseason. I think he would have had more attention from a few more teams, or
totally making more than what is it, $5 million a year?
I think it's a little bit more than that, but I think he's around 8 AAV, but I could be wrong about that.
But anyways, we can look this up later.
Yeah, we can look at it. Whatever it is, he's well worth the money for Edmonton right now. And again, I think he's going to be a factor in the playoffs. I think Edmonton's looks like they're gonna have a good run here. And if he keeps it up, Zach Hyman 40 goal watch maybe next year. Next year 50 goals. Who knows?
60. He might get 60.
And look, it's a big deal. He's a guy who wears 18. He's put out Jewish children's books.
Yes,
he got the Oilers to put out a Hebrew language Hyman jersey. Like, this is not a guy who's shrinking away from his heritage. He has fully embraced it with both arms. This isn't just we found out his great grandfather was Jewish. Maybe he can play for Team Israel someday. This is one of our big Jews.
Oh, totally. His last tweet. He's not a big social media guy. And his last tweet is about Holocaust Remembrance Day. So he definitely wants to use his platform. Speaking of Holocaust Remembrance Day, this is a good segue into our main segment of the podcast, which is golf. Holocaust Remembrance Day, I mentioned, is that it was recently tweeted out, a mention by minor league golfer. I think he's on the Latin American and the Canadian tour, Josh Goldenberg, who's looking to have a great, future in golf. But we had 2 golf wins this week from Jews, Ben Silverman and Max Homa. Ben, this is I think his 2nd win on the Korn Ferry Tour, and Max, this is his 6th on the PGA Tour. I think, which, especially in his home state of California, can be a really big deal. He is still chasing Pavin. Corey Pavin had 13 wins in his career and 1 major. Right. However, 9 of them and no majors were when he was Jewish. So until Max converts away from Judaism, he has 3 more tournaments to win. For him to become the most winningest Jewish golfer of all time in the male division. Amy Alcott won something like 40 tournaments. But
if he wins 1 major, it'll be the first major win by a male Jew
a current Jew.
By a current Jew, as far as we know. Well, I think I talked about this. We talked about this a little bit with Dan, but I think the U.S. Open being in California this year bodes well for him. He is really on a hot streak. Didn't play this week at the Arnold Palmer. I assume he's playing in Phoenix next week.
Yes, I think he is. It's his hometown where he lives now.
It's where he lives now. Yeah,
and I think I saw him doing some practice rounds.
So keep an eye on him at the Masters. I think that's the first time most people probably pay attention to golf. You'll see Max Homa's name on the list. He will be there, and he will be hopefully in competition. He has not had great luck, as we talked about with Dan, but I think that this is. I believe in him for this year. I think this is the year of Max Homa, and I think him winning the Farmers, the biggest Jewish sports event of 2023 so far. So mark that one.
Yeah,
down.
I think so. I was looking to find some connection to Torrey Pine, San Diego, Farmers Insurance. The spokesperson for Farmers Insurance for a very long time has been J.K. Simmons, who I don't think anybody has confused for a Jew for a very long time.
Not if they watched Oz.
Not no. That's a real heads no. So I think that's unlikely. They're unlikely to find another connection for that. Maybe the CEO of that is Jewish. Who knows? Yeah. But it's wonderful for Max. And excited to get to the interview.
Yeah. Let's move on to our interview with Dan Rapaport. We're joined tonight by Dan Rapaport. Dan, how you doing?
All good. Very good. How are you guys?
We're great. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners a little bit? Tell them where you're from, who you work for.
Who are you?
A little bit about yourself.
Who am I? That's a good question. I ask myself that question a lot while I'm staring.
That's the most Jewish answer you could have possibly given, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the day. My name is Dan Rapaport, as was just mentioned. I'm 28. I work for Barstool Sports, which is a very new world for me. I came up professionally in a very traditional media world. I went to Northwestern, did journalism there, so very sort of like straight down the middle, down the fairway journalism. I started at Sports Illustrated after college. moved on to Golf Digest. I started to really kind of dive into the golf world. And then I moved to Barstool in September. Just a really like a new challenge for me, a new chapter. I wanted to feel like I was on the right side of media for the first time in my life, like going to journalism school and then working in Sports Illustrated and working in Golf Digest. Like all you hear about is layoffs and ad cuts. And so it's nice to be at a place where there's growth and where there's momentum.
It's a rare thing.
But yeah, it is a rare thing. It is a rare thing in this business. So you really got to adapt. You got to move around. I'm 28 and I'm already on my third job. So that's just like kind of the nature of the beast these days in media.
And where did you grow up? You are Jewish. I think that's probably
Yes.
He already told us he went to Northwestern journalism school.
I am very Jewish. I grew up in Los Angeles, West Los Angeles. Both my parents are Jewish. Grew up going to a conservative temple. We were second day Rosh Hashanah people. That's how my mom always used to describe us. So she would always. We had a little bit of superiority over the less Jewish friends.
Over the one dayers.
Over the one dayers. That's right. We were Kol Nidre also the night before, and yeah, I mean we went to the high holidays a lot. And then whenever my grandpa was in town, we went even more because both my mom's side of the family, my mom grew up kosher, very, very religious. My dad's side of the family, both his parents were like escaped Nazi Germany. So they were very, very Jewish. Judaism was a very, very big part of my upbringing. Went to a Jewish summer camp only for one summer. Didn't make it very long.
Are you a camp guy is a question that's down the list for every guest we have.
I'm not a camp guy. I went once. I was 9 years old. I cried every single day, and I was so homesick. I don't do all that well with like authority and schedules, so it was really not a good fit for me. And I'm getting married in June in a Jewish ceremony in Rapaport to a Jewish wife, and we'll have a Jewish household and Jewish children. So it's nice to be on here.
That's got the bona fides.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, bar mitzvah, all that. So I check all the boxes.
So our first relevant question. You grew up in LA. Now you're covering golf. Who was your Jewish sports idol growing up? Was there, you obviously care who's Jewish.
Sean Green.
Oh, well, we're both Toronto Blue Jays fans, big Toronto Blue Jays fans. So Sean Green was our hometown hero as well.
So he was kids. A Dodger when I was growing up, and he hit 4 home runs in one game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember finding out that he was Jewish, and it was like the coolest thing of all time. And I had a flip book. I remember a flip book of all 4 home runs.
Wow.
And awesome. I don't know where, I don't remember where that flip book is probably in the bottom of a waste, what a landfill somewhere. But it meant a lot to me at one point in time. So I would say Sean Green.
It was a big deal, at least every high holidays in Toronto. Where like kids would argue that no Sean Green was at my synagogue. I wonder if the same thing happened in LA.
I'm sure. I was really young back then. I'm trying to think of like who else. I mean, I lived on that Wikipedia page of like Jewish athletes. There was like Gabe Kapler, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
was another one.
Some of whom have been guests on our show previously.
I believe it. We stick together. I mean, Edelman. Once I realized that Edelman was Jewish too, he's a cool one too. Because a lot of times
he sort of came to it late to sort of really embrace it. But I think since he has probably the last 5-6 years, he's really been a great ambassador and really embraced it.
Totally. I think there's a lot who are like half, and then you wonder like, are they actually Jewish? Do they actually consider themselves Jewish? So it's nice to see Edelman be pretty unapologetic about it.
Yeah. Speaking of Californian Jews, we wanted to have you on in part because we want to talk about the rise of the great Max Homa. He won the Farmers Insurance Open. Is that the formal title?
That's right. Yep.
Last Saturday in a pretty dramatic, last few holes. Had a great run, and he is, I think, 13th in the world now. He is really having a come up, and I think people are going to be looking for him come major season this year.
Yeah, he's made a jump. I mean, we've known about Max for a couple of years because of the social media stuff, the Twitter stuff. He was always the goofy guy,
right?
And it's weird because that guy is almost never a world-class player in really any sport, right? Someone who lives online. I guess Kevin Durant is probably another one who's
he's a little too online. Kevin Durant.
He's a little too online. It's almost like Galaxy Brain, where Max uses his phone like I use my phone, or like you got, you know what I mean?
Max is a poster. Person. He's a real poster. Like he understands it. He gets it.
He totally gets it.
He's good at it.
And so I think fans have felt this sort of like parasocial connection to him for a long time. And so to watch this rise happen where he blossoms from just being Max, the funny guy on Twitter who will roast your swing, to the guy who's now won at some of the tougher venues. He's won at Quail Hollow. He's won at Riviera. He's won at Torrey Pines. I mean, these are big boy golf courses. The next step for Max, as you alluded to, is the majors. And I think he's played in 13 in his career. He's only made 5 cuts and has no top 10s. Now, some of those happened when he sucked, back when he really sucked in like 16 and 17. But even 2021 and 2022, I think 2021, he might have missed like the cut in every major. He might have made one.
Yeah. He hasn't really shown up at the big tournaments so far.
He has not shown up at the majors, and that's the next step in this progression is you win some big PGA Tour events, and then all right, I want to see you come the back 9 at Augusta, or I want to see you in the back 9 at the U.S. Open. So maybe this is the year for that.
Well, I think it's incredibly exciting from his perspective that the U.S. Open this year is at the Los Angeles Country Club, because many of his wins have been in California. Obviously, he grew up in L.A., and I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of his PGA Tour wins now have been in California. So I think they're like, if it's going to happen this year, it's going to happen.
Yeah, what can you tell us about the Country Club?
It goes deeper about LACC. So Max won the 2013 Pac-12 championship at LACC on the North Course. He shot 61, which is still the course record. And the coolest part is LACC up until like 5 years ago, had 0 Jews.
Wow.
Like none.
Really?
It was one of those. Oh yeah. It is among the old timey waspy places. It really, the most of any club in California or in Los Angeles for sure. It was not a place where Jews were welcome. That's changed a little bit in the last 5 years. There's been kind of a change.
That's like horrifying.
Talking about it changing, like talking about it being in the last 5
recent.
years is like that's a little sad to just be like.
No, it's very maybe 10, but there was I think there was an old guard that was on the board. I think those people like died out, and then the newer people are a little bit more reasonable, and they would hide behind it by saying, "Oh, we just don't want anyone in Hollywood," or these rules. Where
that's never been used as a dog whistle before.
Yeah, it's just so I think for a Jew to win the U.S. Open at LA Country Club would be really delicious.
So we had, I guess it was almost a year ago, we had the CEO of Golf Canada on our show. He's a guy named Lawrence Applebaum, and he is a day school kid, camp guy, really, really Jewish guy. And sort of by coincidence, this year the Canadian Open is being held at a club that has been Jewish forever.
I heard about that.
Oakdale.
Yeah, Oakdale in Toronto. In Toronto.
And he said his dream is to watch Max Homa lift the Canadian Open trophy, where his son had his bar mitzvah.
Yeah, that's pretty damn cool. I had my bar mitzvah at Brentwood Country Club, which is a similar, like, Jewish.
Is that where you grew up playing?
That's where I grew up playing. Yeah. It's like 97% Jewish or something.
Oh, yeah,
But that's, I feel like with the Jewish clubs, it's not that we don't let in non-Jews. It's just like a self-selecting kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The story of Oakdale.
It's got an interesting history.
At Oakdale, there's a guy. This is a family friend who's a member told me the story. There's a guy who's not Jewish. The only not Jewish member told the board, "I'm here to find out if you'll let me in." Basically, and they went, "All right," and they let him in.
Yeah. I'm a member of a course here in New York called Quaker Ridge, which is also Jewish, despite the name.
Yeah,
despite the name.
Despite the name Quaker Ridge, it was started because there was a course across the street, Wingfoot, that didn't let in any Jews. So this is where all the Jews were, and I know for a fact that the board members would love to have non-Jews.
Yeah.
They're looking for them. They're like, come over here, come hang out with us. We're here, we're fine. But it's just one of those things that, like, once you're labeled as the Jewish club, then the Jews seek you out.
But it is an interesting pattern that sort of happened in lots of different places where it's like, there's a WASPy club that won't let in Jews. The Jews start their own club. That club becomes popular and successful in its own right. Maybe the WASPy clubs can't all survive because there isn't the same membership for them. And, they'd be dying to have some wealthy members come and flock to them, but they have to sort of consolidate. And then the Jewish clubs just become sort of a hub for Judaism and don't necessarily grow beyond that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I can understand the appeal of, a club for us sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, the Jewish, there's, you guys both live in Toronto. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the Toronto Jewish scene is like, but LA Jewish scene is very strong. I mean, west side of LA is very, there's a couple. Brentwood Country Club, Hillcrest, another one that's like basically all Jewish.
Yeah,
there's a very, very strong community in West Los Angeles.
Toronto's got almost 500,000 Jews. It's one of the biggest Jewish communities in the world. I think it's 380,000 now, something like that. And that's sort of all around, like not just the city of Toronto.
Still, that's big.
But we've got a couple of Jewish courses. There's actually, pay attention. I think she goes to A&M now, but there's the low amateur at the Canadian Open last year is a Jewish girl from a Jewish club called Maple Downs that's here. Her name's Lauren Zaretsky. And, she's 18 and going to be a big deal. But yeah, the Jewish, like the community here, both in and outside of golf, is very, very strong.
Well, we lost a good one. We lost a good one in Matt Wolf.
Yes,
he went the other way.
He did.
He's also
we lost a good one.
So this is
not. So lost him in two ways because he went to live golf. But also he is like a born again Christian now.
He's a born again Christian. That's what happens when you go to Oklahoma State, man.
Yeah,
I know. That's what a miss. That's why you got to stick to the Arizona, Stanford, like a normal West Coast school.
Do you know the story of Nate State. Thompson? This is a great segue. No. He's an NHL player, also a former guest of our show, who was a born again Jew. In that he was having some troubles in his life, found Judaism, and got clean and sober, and made something of his NHL career. You don't hear about that very often.
Judaism and a Jewish girl. Yeah.
Is sobriety like a big thing in Judaism? I don't think it is.
I think I
think it was just coincidental, but it was like it was how he sort of got back on the right track. Anyways, I find it so bizarre that someone like goes away to university and comes home and going born again Christian, but whatever, that's his choice, and. I don't know. So another Jew won last week. Ben Silverman won on the Korn Ferry Tour down in Aruba. As far as we can tell, it's the first time Jews have won on both the PGA Tour and the Korn Ferry at the same time, or whatever the Korn Ferry used to be when it was whenever it's
Web.com, Nationwide Tour before that. Yeah.
But he'll probably be back on. He'll probably get his tour card again this year.
Yeah. If you
it's
win,
not guaranteed, but it's pretty close.
But I mean, you got to really suck for the rest of the year to not get your card. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Yeah.
And Ben, I mean, this is Jewish geography. I grew up playing at the same course as him, which is not a Jewish course. It is a Chinese course where there was like 5 Jewish families, and his family and mine were both one of them. And everyone knew he was going to be a huge deal from long ago, but it's good to see him finally win again.
He's kind of oscillating. He was on tour for a little, right? Yeah. And he kind of dropped down. He's been between both.
And he's been Monday qualifying for a bunch of, he's played in a bunch of tournaments that he Monday queued for or got sponsors exemptions or stuff for that. He'll be, because he won last week, he'll be in Pebble Beach this week.
Nice.
Yeah, he got the call. And I think he'll be he'll play in the Canadian Open almost certainly, especially if it's at Oakdale, which is it's still so bizarre to say. It's so bizarre. Maybe
that's the first time it's been held at Oakdale, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yes.
We looked into this, and I'm curious to know if you know about any of this. There's one other Jewish club it's been at, which is in Montreal. I don't remember the name of it, but it's one of the 2 Jewish courses in Montreal hosted an Open like in the 40s. Like early, when they were so Jewish, nobody probably knew that it was just like a golf club that it
was like a new thing.
Yeah, it was a new thing. So this is the first one in a very long time. You hear a lot more of the stories about Jews being excluded from golf, as you mentioned, LA Country Club.
It's a weird one. Like I've grown up going to all these courses, and I'm just gonna pull up a list right now of the top golf courses.
Yeah,
because
please, but
most of them do not. Like letting Jews at all, or have like 2 or 3. I mean, Pine Valley, not a very big Jewish.
No.
Cypress, no. Even Shinnecock, no Jews.
Wingfoot is a great example. As is Brookline Country Club, and Brookline, the neighborhood is like 90% Jewish, and
that's the same thing as Wingfoot, like Mamaroneck, Scarsdale. It's all filled with.
My
Jews.
grandparents lived in Mamaroneck for a very long time.
Yeah. So it's our clubs in Scarsdale. The whole area is very Jewish, but. I'm hopeful that things are starting to change, and I think that they are. Like, I think golf is not. It's not just golf. I mean, you just can't get away with that shit anymore in society. Mm-hmm. And I think golf is really, really trying to grow and trying to modernize. And so I'm hopeful. You've seen like Pine Valley's letting in women now, which was unthinkable 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, Augusta changed their policy, so I think the days of the all male club are probably numbered realistically.
Mm-hmm. So we want to talk to you a little bit, Dan, about the upcoming Netflix documentary, Full Swing. This is sort of Netflix's, like their F1 show. I don't know if it's the exact same producer.
It's the same producers.
Same producer. So the F1 show that was very popular that sort of followed the drivers and their teams. This is the sort of golf version of it. I think that's a fair sort of summary of it.
Totally.
Coming out in just a few weeks. So what's your involvement been in the documentary?
Yeah, I sat for a bunch of interviews. So, I think I'll be one of those guys who's talking about, basically explaining to you what you're seeing or bridging narratives or kind of adding some context to things.
Have you reached out to Will Buxton of the F1 show about
yes,
what it's...
I have spoken to Will Buxton.
About your likelihood of becoming a meme?
Yeah, I mean, look, if our show is 1/50th as big as their show is or whatever it is, I mean, there's 3 F1 events in the U.S. this year. There's
Right.
there was one, and now there's three. And there's Austin, there's Vegas, and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And that show almost single-handedly put that sport on the map. So yeah, it's no secret that that's what we're after. We're trying to get that bump. We're trying to, it's interesting. Been interesting watching the show. I've got some screeners. I've been watching it. It's not a show for me. You know what I mean? It's not a show for an inside golf guy.
Okay.
Who knows what's going to happen, or who knows? I mean, obviously I'm still going to watch. And I think even you guys seem to know your stuff. You'll still watch. It's still great. It's still fun. But the show, the edict from Netflix was, this needs to be watchable for someone who has no knowledge of golf.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the first episode, they're explaining what a par is and what a birdie is. And,
okay.
Golf is different because you actually want to have a lower score than a higher score.
I actually don't play it that way.
Yeah, no, but it's we're trying to get people into golf who aren't already into golf. And that's, Buxton was a big part of that, obviously. Like there's just the viral nature of that show and how damn dramatic he is.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not really my style of speaking. But hopefully it catches on the same way.
Yeah, that's great because, I think it's tough for the game. I mean, it's always tough for any sport to expand, but golf has that great ability that, anyone can go out and play and, even ultimately play the same courses that the pros are playing, maybe not every one, but some of them. And, you always need to find ways to expand the game. It feels like golf is having a good few years though.
Golf's had a great few years. The pandemic was really, really big. We're starting to see a lot of concepts that are not 18-hole golf courses that I really like.
Okay, so like what?
Top Golf has been a runaway success.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys have that in Toronto, but
they've been promising for the last 5 years that they're going to open one here, and they haven't, and it's a real bummer.
It's I mean, you go to any one on like a Friday or Saturday, it's pumping. I mean, it's a lot of fun. There's Pop Stroke is Tiger's thing, which is like a similar idea, but it's putting. It's like mini golf, but on more. Not real so court. Crazy. Yeah. It's not real grass, it's still turf, but and then there's all these par 3 concepts that we're hearing about. People are going to start to open par 3 courses or 12 hole courses, or, there's 3 6-hole loops. So you can play 6 holes or 12 holes or 18 holes, because, I think everyone is willing to invest an hour or maybe even 2 hours in themselves and in recreation and fitness. It's when you get to the 5 hours and when it's all day that it's really hard for people. So if we can bring golf closer to people by sort of removing the definition of golf as exclusively 18 holes, collared shirts, pants at a country club, we need to dress it down a little bit. And I think we'll reach a lot more people.
I'm a big hoper of hoper. I don't know if that's the word, but I've got a lot of hope I could wear like a heavy metal t-shirt to a golf course and it would be totally fine. That's the dream.
There are certain golf courses where you can do that. It's just it needs to become more common and accessible.
Our local par 3, I'm there.
Even the rise of golf simulators as a relatively cheap thing, I think has been a real game changer. Like there's a number that have opened near us. And especially, like you experience the same thing now, like when there's a winter that stops you from playing, 4 or 5 months of the year, there's got to be something to keep you sharp.
Yeah, I'm moving back to California after we get married because I can't do it anymore.
Really? The winters, you're not a winter guy.
I can't do it. I mean, what am I going to do? I play golf all day. You know what I mean?
And so how often do you play? And usually, like you're obviously you're like, do you spend a lot of time on the road, obviously, and where do you get golf in there?
Yeah, so the new job's a little bit different because we have a YouTube channel, which is a very big area of emphasis for us. So we do like travel series where we'll go to one of these golf resorts and play, 3 days in a row, 36 holes a day. So like that's a lot. When I'm on the road, I always bring the sticks. That's sort of the first rule of traveling on the PGA Tour. Always bring the sticks.
You never know when you're going to get the call.
You never know when you're going to get the call. And, I've gotten to a place now where I've been around a little bit. So I kind of have connects in different cities. I got a guy if I'm in Charlotte, I got a guy in Charlotte that I can call, or if I'm in, Jacksonville, I got a guy in, so that's nice. And then, when I'm here in the summers, when I'm home, I play, probably 2 or 3 times a week. We play on the weekends at the club with the boys. I love playing golf. And I think that's a huge part of my coverage is because I am a good player and I love to play competitively. And I love to, I think there's a certain joy in that comes through in my coverage that you'd be shocked at how many golf writers or golf media people like haven't played in 10 years and hate the game. And I think it kind of
actually, you know what?
shows.
We've been at a few tournaments now in the media room, and I think I've seen that firsthand.
Oh, they're all so cranky.
Yeah.
They're all so cranky. Everything sucks, and it used to be better back then. And
it's just waiting for the free food.
Yeah, basically, they're in there for the free beer. They type out their 600 words. So most of them don't even go on the golf course.
It's all everyone's in that horrible cart burn. Doesn't matter what course you're at. It's a dark cart burn, and people are glued to the desks.
Except Augusta National, they have you should Google what their media center looks like because it looks like a NASA control room. It's unbelievable.
Really,
it's unbelievable. It's literally one of the nicest buildings I've ever been in.
That's awesome. Sorry, go on.
No, they have the tournament every year, so they treat press very, very well, which is why everyone is so glowingly positive about. I mean, one of the reasons, but yeah, they built this new press room that is just like it's really hard to describe how nice it is.
Are you headed back to Augusta this year?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, going back this year, I was a little nervous about that with Barstool because Barstool's had some run-ins with Augusta in the past, but they understand how media works. Last year they shot a video with Dude Perfect. Remember it was like on Amen Corner, right? So there's obviously someone in the room in the media committee who knows the trends and stuff. And so I think I was not impressed because I expected it from them, but I was pleased that they played ball.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. I guess the PGA will be the first test of this, but sort of like the bringing back of the two worlds, live and PGA tours back.
Oh, the Masters is first.
But I thought the PGA.
Yeah,
I thought
the Masters is in April. The PGA is in May.
Oh, I thought
PGA's in May,
not in France. Yeah. So the Masters is gonna be the first real test play. Yeah.
It's gonna be tense. I think it's gonna be tense. I mean, it was last week with Rory and Reed. It was super tense.
Slinging going on.
We'll see if anyone gets subpoenaed.
There's a lot of these old timer guys like a Fred Couples who they just hate live. They hate what it stands for. A lot of these guys are old Southern boys. And this is America, and I earned my way on this tour, and you want to go play for the Saudis over there. That's how they say Saudis. And then there's going to be Phil and Bubba and Sergio, who are just the richest guys in the room now, other than Tiger. DJ, but it's wild, man. It's been a wild 24 months really in our sport.
I think that's if there's something that's going to draw people into full swing who are just casual observers, just the focus on that and all the drama that's been associated with that is going to really hook people in just to see how that's going. And because you can follow up on it in real time. Like you can see what happened and what's happening now with those.
It's not going anywhere. I mean, there's going to be more guys who go over. There's going to be, more lawsuits. We're really in the middle of this generational struggle.
It's just hard to imagine. I guess we'll see this year because it's like the first full year with all the roster. It's just hard to imagine watching a live tournament event. Like maybe I will. Like maybe it'll happen, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to be drawing people in. There's something about it that just feels so contrived. And I mean, I guess it is. Well, it is contrived. They're paying these people a lot of money, but it's just sort of like
they're paying these people a lot of money and they're not making anything.
Yeah, it's all prize money's up front.
Well, it's just they have no revenue,
right?
So it's a show. I mean, it's basically a show. They basically pay these guys to come perform,
right? And I guess what I've always loved about watching golf is the reality of it. Like there is something that feels different. People striving to win, and there's something at stake. Or when you see journeymen who are playing for their tour cards and things like that. I don't know. Somehow the stakes seem just higher. Even when you see a guy make the cut who's ranked 150th in the world, and it's like this is making a huge difference in his life.
It means something. Yeah.
This is to take it back. Right. Take it back to Max Homa for a second. He's been pushing an idea that I'm all for, which is that they should televise the cut line. Just show the guys who are on the cut line as much as you're showing the guys leading, because on Friday afternoon that's way more exciting. And you get to see them miss, right? Like we only see the guys on TV who are playing so well, not the guys who are playing like you or I.
That's a really good point. These guys are incredible, and I got to go just in a few
minutes. Yeah, of course.
But these guys are incredible, right? But people think that they're a little bit better than they are because of that reason that you just mentioned. You only see the guys who are playing the best. there's a lot of guys who just don't have it, right? Who are shooting 71, and you're only seeing the 6 irons that go to 5 feet. You're not seeing the 6 iron that's pushed right into the bunker. And so whenever I would show people that like the average proximity to the hole from 160 yards in the middle of the fairway is 30 feet. You'd think that that's the average, and people are stunned by that because they're like, what do you mean? Like these guys hit it to, from 100 yards, I think it's like 22 feet or something. Wow. People think that, when you're 100 yards away, these guys should be hitting it within 5 feet. It's just not. Yeah, maybe the best guy who's playing the best, but
not to mention on courses that have been tailor made to fuck with everybody and make it as difficult as possible. I mean,
that is true. That is true. Like if they went to your local muni, they wouldn't be giving the course so much respect. They'd be taking more dead aim. But you're right. Like I do think that's a future of golf, especially with the legalization of gambling. Like the cut line is so vital. With DFS stuff, if guys miss the cut, you basically have no chance. So I think having these like simulcasts is definitely the future.
I would also say like it's exciting to see, and I'm just picking on him because I happened to see it live at a tournament once, but like Cam Smith whiff on a chip. Like he does it. Yeah. Everybody does it. And you don't see that on TV very often because it was not going to happen in a week where he's leading.
Right. Yeah, no, there's bad shots out there. You'd be surprised. I played in an LPGA event like 2 weeks ago in it was like a pro-am thing, kind of the women's version of the AT&T. And the second hole, I was playing with Celine Boutier, who's number 12 in the world, and she fatted one directly into the water. I mean, it was like, whoa.
It happens.
It happens. Just like us. It happens.
Now
she shot even par, but she fatted a 9 iron straight into the piss.
I'm glad you brought up the LPGA because we can say this now that Max won this week, Ben Silverman won this week. We need Dana Finkelstein to join the crowd.
Wait, Dana Finkelstein is Jewish?
Yes. And there's a guy on the Latin American tour named Josh Goldenberg, who I was iffy on until he posted something for Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is usually, and he's from LA too, so it's usually a pretty good sign.
That is usually a pretty good sign.
So we need the two of them to catch up, and not saying they don't pull their weight because they're doing great, but we need them to also win. Elizabeth Sokol as well. She's an up-and-comer a bit. So we've been following her a lot as well.
Yeah. Well, Dan, we should let you go. Thanks so much for being so generous with your time. If you want to come to the Canadian Open, we'll see you at Oakdale.
You know why I'm not coming to the Canadian
You're
Open?
not vaccinated.
I am vaccinated. I'm getting married on June 10th, which is that.
So we'll miss you.
So,
but
I will not be at the Canadian Open. That's for sure.
At Oakdale, unfortunately, that's so.
I
know.
We should have just gotten married there.
You could have just done it. They've done it. They know. I'm pretty sure they can make that kitchen kosher just like with a flip of a switch.
Definitely.
And it's a 27-hole course, so even if they're playing 18 for the championship,
we'll put the tent on the other 9.
That's awesome.
Anyway, take care, Dan. Thanks so much for joining us.
See you guys. Bye.
A big thanks and a big mazel tov to Dan Rapaport on his upcoming wedding. I hope they have a wonderful time getting married and not being at the Canadian Open. We will miss him as Jews in Toronto at Oakdale. I think he would have enjoyed just sort of the general vibe and the nachas we're all going to have watching Max Homa or Ben Silverman carry that trophy at Oakdale.
Or David Lipsky. Who knows?
Or David Lipsky. That's very true.
But I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the Oakdale tournament. Like we've gotten accreditation in the last few years, so we should be able to go as press, hopefully without any issue, and just sort of see the club in its, splendor. Like see it showing off. Is always nice to see. I don't have any I don't have any connection to it. I know I've been there a number of times. I've never played there. I've been there as a kid, obviously, for bar mitzvahs and things like that. But I still think I have some sense of pride of it being the Jewish club and it hosting this tournament. So. I think I feel some pride in that.
As we talked with Dan, it's a lot more likely that a professional golf event will be held at a course that bans Jews, that is restricted to Jews, than one that is like for them.
Right.
There's not many.
It's true. Yeah.
Not many clubs that have been so, and it's the week before. Interestingly, it's the week before the U.S. Open at Los Angeles Country Club.
Yeah, so which is it's always a bit of a bummer. There's always some people who seem to miss it just because it's too complicated to travel to Canada, or or they do the tune up the week before or whatever it is.
But I just mean to say they go from a Jewish club to a restricted one, like back to back.
I had no idea about that. Very interesting to hear.
Yeah, very, very interesting to hear, especially how recently it was so.
Right.
But
or I guess there's there is a tradition, or not a tradition, but like there is a sense of some clubs being like, okay, yeah, we let a Jew in 1975 or whatever, but like just the one.
You can bring guests that are Jews.
Yeah. And it's just like, we're not restricted, quote unquote. Like we got, people off our back. Like, ADL isn't knocking down our doors. But in actuality, like no Jew has signed up as a member there in the last 30 years.
As something Dan said, it's a no Hollywood policy. A lot of them have no Hollywood policies, whether, they call it that or not.
The idea of running a golf course or a country club in Los Angeles and being like, what's the biggest industry in this city? What's the city known for? We won't take those guys, but it's not because they're Jews. It's not because they're Jews. No.
It's for another reason.
We don't like the idea of them doing Hollywood type business.
I don't think they would. I think it would just be another reason. It's for another reason, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see if it's ever discussed. On the broadcasts, Jim Nantz will be at both events, presumably.
1,000% it will not be.
But I mean, if Oakdale will be, either Oakdale or the LACC will talk about it.
That is a good question.
Brookline,
I guess we'll see. Yeah.
I think the exclusionary history of Brookline at the U.S. Open was talked about last year.
Right.
In that it was restricted for Black people and Jewish people for a very long time.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see. I think you're right. It's an interesting juxtaposition between the Jewish club and the non-Jewish club, especially in such a Jewish city as LA.
The anti-Jewish club.
Yeah.
As Larry Funkhauser said, if Arafat can break bread with Rabin, Marty Funkhauser said, I'm sorry, if Arafat can break bread with Rabin, I can watch golf at that anti-Semitic shithole.
Sure, something like that. Good.
A couple of quick roundup items before we go. This week was WNBA free agency. Very exciting stuff. As we know, both WNBA, I think former champion and head of the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance, Alicia Clark, signed with the reigning champion Las Vegas Aces. They're sort of building a super team in LA to compete, and Vegas, to compete against the super team that they're building in New York. Of which our friend David Goss is still, I believe, the PA announcer. Right. But no Sue Bird this year, but we still have Alicia to cheer on for Jewish WNBA fans.
Definitely cheer on
which
those.
Is pretty exciting.
Vegas Aces.
Yes, and in motorsports, F1, the F1 season starts in, I think, 3 weeks. We'll have another episode 2 where we should have 3 possible Jewish F1 participants this year. Robert Schwartzman, who is Russian and Jewish, but now unaffiliated and Jewish. I think he's now racing as Israel under the Israeli flag. His parents are Israeli and Russian, and he is Jewish. He was raised Jewish. He's the Ferrari backup driver. In addition to Lance Stroll being the Aston Martin number 1 driver.
Cool.
So possibility of 2 or 3 Jews on the grid. Roy Nissany, the Israeli, is still a backup driver for Williams. So the possibilities are, we have a 3 out of 20 Jews on that grid.
It's pretty significant. That's pretty wild. I don't know how
absolutely
people get to be race car drivers, but we've done it. We've integrated.
We have done it. One other thing interesting, I find this very interesting. Robert Schwartzman, the race car driver, not the same Robert Schwartzman who's Jason Schwartzman's father and Talia Shire's husband. Different Robert Schwartzman. So
it would be cool if they were the same guy, but
it would be very cool if they were the same
Robert
guy.
Schwartzman is in his 70s or 80s or no longer with us.
I also wonder if we have an opposite of the Mike Jacobs All-Stars. Robert Schwartzman, the race car driver, is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Russian who very much does not look like what you would expect a Jewish person to look like, if you would expect. Right. But he's
like the actress Diana Agron from Glee, who always gets cast as a non-Jew, explicitly as a non-Jew, despite being quite Jewish. I think she got to play a Jew for the first time last year.
Absolutely. I think Zoe Dutch is a very similar one. Definitely proudly Jewish, but I don't think has ever played a Jewish character at all. But Robert Schwartzman, he's actually born in Israel and raised in St. Petersburg. I misspoke. But he used to race under the Russian flag, is now racing under the Israeli flag.
Sounds good.
That's
let's
exciting
leave
stuff.
it there. Let's leave it there for now. We'll be back in a few weeks. I assume you and I will have consumed all of Full Swing when it drops on February 15th.
Dan, if you're listening to this episode, we will have lots of thoughts on your interview questions and responses, and we'll share them all with you unsolicited.
As always, we're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. You can find our podcast and all Canadian Jewish News content on our website, thecjn.ca. You can please like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us on Twitter at Menschwarmers, still posting Jewish news, mixing it up with, whoever we can to get all the latest news about Jewish sports. So if you're still on Twitter, and we still are, follow us at Menschwarmers. Thanks for listening.